Chapter 1891. Everyone panicked after hearing Chu Yingfei's words. They had never seen such a strange thing. Until now, when Chu Yingfei called out Bailey Hongzhuang's name. At this time, only Bailey Hongzhuang could save her from this pain. Everyone's eyes couldn't help but turn to Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang had already walked into Wind Canyon. Just looking at Bailey Hongzhuang's back as she left, everyone understood that Bailey Hongzhuang didn't plan to pay attention to Chu Yingfei at all. After all, when Bailey Hongzhuang left, Chu Yingfei still had an arrogant look on her face. Now that she had fallen into such a situation, she only thought of begging Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang probably wouldn't pay attention to her at all. Thinking of what she did to Bailey Hongzhuang before, how excessive was that? If it were them, they wouldn't pay attention to Chu Yingfei at all under such circumstances. One had to know that Chu Yingfei wanted Bailey Hongzhuang's life before. I beg you help me find Bailey Hongzhuang. Chu Yingfei struggled to look at the cultivators around her. Fine beads of sweat kept flowing from her forehead, and her hair was also wet. Under such intense pain, she only felt that it took all her strength to say a word. Everyone looked at each other. Although they didn't have a good impression of Chu Yingfei, looking at Chu Yingfei's painful appearance, they were really worried that Chu Yingfei would die from the pain. If Chu Yingfei died like this, they would probably be implicated. Pei Yifan frowned as he looked at Chu Yingfei. He had to admit that Bailey Hongzhuang's methods were really amazing. What method did she use to make people suffer to such an extent? Most importantly, everything had happened in front of their eyes. They had seen everything clearly, and there was no chance for them to do anything. However, now that things had developed to this point, he couldn't just watch Chu Yingfei die from pain like this. In the next moment, Pei Yifan immediately walked in the direction of Wind Canyon. If Bailey Hongzhuang only punished Chu Yingfei like this, it would be fine. However, if Chu Yingfei lost her life like this, it wouldn't be appropriate. Everyone wasn't surprised when they saw Pei Yifan go to Bailey Hongzhuang. With Pei Yifan's character, he had always helped the gift and not the person. This method was very in line with his character. Bailey Hongzhuang tried her best to control the energy in her body. To be adjusted. To find the most accurate method. However, it was fortunate that she had at least found a direction. Chu Yingfei, that kind should be taught a lesson. Earlier, she had already poisoned Chu Yingfei. When she kidnapped Chu Yuza's. However, if there wasn't another type of poison powder to fuse with, it wouldn't have any effect on Chu Yingfei. Yingfei Hongzhuang to Yuyu Hongzhuang, she Bailey Zhuang. Normally, no one among the core disciples of Limitless Palace could teach Chu Yingfei a lesson. That was why Chu Yingfei was so arrogant. Logically speaking, with Chu Yingfei's personality of creating trouble out of nothing, she should be very annoying. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang slowly walked to the front of Wind Canyon, Pei Yifan quickly appeared beside her. Chapter 1892. Pei Yifan stopped talking halfway. He understood that with Bailey Hongzhuang's position, there was no need to pay attention to Chu Yingfei. Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at Pei Yifan. It seemed that her judgment of Pei Yifan was right. Pei Yifan was not only upright, but also kind. Chu Yingfei had also insulted Pei Yifan before. Now that Chu Yingfei was in such a state, Pei Yifan was still pleading for Chu Yingfei. She really didn't know whether to say that Prime Minister Pei Yifan was magnanimous or that he was too stupid. With Chu Yingfei's personality, even if Pei Yifan helped her now, she wouldn't remember Pei Yifan's kindness once she recovered. On the contrary, she might hate Pei Yifan even more. She couldn't stand the fact that she had to seek help from the person she hated the most. With her petty personality, it was normal for her to do such an ungrateful thing. What does her fate have to do with me? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyes slightly and looked at Pei Yifan with a faint smile. She never thought of herself as a good person. Perhaps she didn't want to kill cultivators who were remorseful, but she wouldn't give people like Chu Yingfei any chance. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Pei Yifan was slightly taken aback. His expression was complicated. From Bailey Hongzhuang's previous behavior, he could tell that Bailey Hongzhuang was a woman who knew how to repay kindness. People like her wouldn't have a bad personality. Without thinking, he could understand why Bailey Hongzhuang chose to do this. Therefore, after hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's question, he didn't know what to say. No matter what, it was Bailey Hongzhuang's freedom. He couldn't force Bailey Hongzhuang to do it. This isn't the life and death ring. If Chu Yingfei dies here, it will affect you negatively, Pei Yifan said. The reason why he said this was not to save Chu Yingfei, but because this matter really had a big impact on Bailey Hongzhuang. Elder Su had just left, and before he left, he had already told Bailey Hongzhuang about this matter. If Chu Yingfei died now, then the situation would be very bad. Seeing Pei Yifan's frown and worry, Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled and said, "Don't worry. She won't die. It's just a life worse than death." A cold look flashed in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes. With Chu Yingfei's personality, as long as she stayed with them in the future, there would be endless trouble. She had to make sure Chu Yingfei Hongzhuang completely disappear from her sight. As long as Bailey Hongzhuang's, it wouldn't be too much of a problem. As long as Chu's life was, it would be fine. As long as Hongzhuang's he believed that Bailey Hongzhuang was telling the truth and wasn't lying to him. In the next moment, Bailey Hongzhuang continued to walk into Wind Canyon. She wanted Chu Yingfei to taste the price of offending her, so she naturally wouldn't help her. Pei Yifan didn't say much. From Bailey Hongzhuang's attitude, he could tell what she was thinking. No matter what, Bailey Hongzhuang wouldn't let Chu Yingfei go. As long as her life wasn't in danger, a punishment was nothing. If they continued to work hard now, they would have a bright future ahead of them. Even if they didn't work hard now, they would be treated well in any kingdom. How could they bear to leave such a beautiful life? Hurry up and get Bailey Hongzhuang to relieve my pain. Chu Yingfei shouted. Chapter 1894. Looking at Chu Yingfei's self-righteous appearance, Pei Yifan shook his head and didn't want to bother with her anymore. Even now, Chu Yingfei still didn't repent. Thinking about it, it would be even more impossible in the future. Since that was the case, why should he bother with her? Thinking of this, Pei Yifan didn't even look at Chu Yingfei. He turned around and walked towards the depths of Wind Canyon. He still needed to cultivate. He didn't have time to waste on Chu Yingfei. Chu Yingfei had lost 3 months of cultivation resources. She was destined to not be able to keep up with their cultivation pace. Perhaps after 3 months, there would already be other core disciples replacing Chu Yingfei. Seeing Pei Yifan turn around and leave, Chu Yingfei's expression instantly became ugly. Under the intense pain, she wanted to reach out and grab Pei Yifan, but she didn't have any strength at all. Just as Chu Yingfei grabbed Pei Yifan's trousers, Pei Yifan's figure moved and directly shook off Chu Yingfei's hand. Pei Yifan's figure slowly disappeared from Chu Yingfei's sight. Chu Yingfei's eyes were also filled with despair. Pei Yifan left very decisively without the slightest hesitation. Since Bailey Hongzhuang already said that Chu Yingfei wouldn't die, then there was no need to care. After everyone saw Pei Yifan leave like this, their expressions became very interesting. Pei Yifan had always been an upright and plain-spoken person. Usually, when he saw someone in need, he would lend a helping hand. However, now that Chu Yingfei was in so much pain, Pei Yifan chose to leave. This was enough to prove how much Pei Yifan hated Chu Yingfei. Following Pei Yifan's departure, everyone hesitated for a moment before leaving one after another. As for Chu Yingfei, they didn't have any plans to help. Soon, everyone disappeared in front of Chu Yingfei. Seeing everyone leave like this, Chu Yingfei's expression became even more ugly. Compared to the despair before, there was a bit of panic. She didn't know whether Bailey Hongzhuang's words about not dying was true or false. If it was false, then she really couldn't keep her life. In the sect, the cultivators respected the cultivators with strength the most. Regardless of your age or background, as long as you have enough strength, they will respect you. Although it was Bailey Hongzhuang's first time at Limitless Palace, her previous performance was enough to gain everyone's respect. When the elemental energy in Bailey Hongzhuang's body was depleted in the Wind Canyon, she walked out of the Wind Canyon and continued to meditate and recover her elemental energy. Bailey Hongzhuang had already walked out of Wind Canyon and saw that Chu Yingfei had already fainted on the ground. Her gaze paused on Chu Yingfei for a moment, then quickly shifted away. Chu Yingfei's situation was not out of her expectations. She wanted to punish Chu Yingfei, which was why Chu Yingfei suffered so much pain. Ordinary people would not be able to endure such pain, and fainting was an extremely normal thing. When Chu Yingfei woke up, the pain would disappear. However, the most important side effect would also appear. Anyone who offended her would not have a good ending. The punishment Bailey Hongzhuang wanted to give Chu Yingfei was not just pain, but after Chu Yingfei woke up, she would constantly find that her cultivation was regressing in the following days. Chapter 1895. This was the most important use. She believed that Chu Yingfei would definitely collapse when she saw her degenerating process. For someone like Chu Yingfei, this was the only way to punish her sufficiently. Time passed very quickly in the process of cultivation. Not long after, it was already evening. Chu Yingfei only slowly woke up at this moment. The pain from before was too exhausting, so she slept for such a long time before she could wake up. When Chu Yingfei woke up, she only felt that her entire body was exhausted. Looking at the red clouds that filled the sky, her eyes couldn't help but be filled with shock. She was a little confused and didn't understand what was going on. This confusion only lasted for a short period of time. Chu Yingfei quickly understood. The cultivators in the Wind Canyon were preparing to leave as it was getting late. Originally, everyone was still a little hesitant. Should they bring Chu Yingfei with them or leave Chu Yingfei here? Fortunately, Chu Yingfei just happened to wake up now, so they didn't have to think about this problem. After seeing that she didn't die, Chu Yingfei heaved a sigh of relief. Her gaze turned slightly, and her gaze quickly stopped on Bailey Hongzhuang. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang again, Chu Yingfei couldn't help but gnash her teeth. If it wasn't for Bailey Hongzhuang, how could she have fallen to such a state? He actually fainted in front of everyone. This could be said to be extremely humiliating. She slowly stood up and looked angrily at Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang, what did you do to me? Chu Yingfei raised her voice and said angrily. The bone-deep hatred in her eyes seemed to be able to burn Bailey Hongzhuang to ashes. Hearing Chu Yingfei's question, Bailey Hongzhuang didn't care at all. She indifferently glanced at Chu Yingfei and mocked, "You don't even understand what happened, and you have the face to ask me?" After saying that, Bailey Hongzhuang no longer paid attention to Chu Yingfei. She turned around and walked towards the palace. She had been cultivating in Wind Canyon for an entire day. Di Beichen and the three beasts must be waiting for her. It was time for her to go back. Cultivation would take a long time, and it was not something that could be accomplished in a short period of time. When Chu Yingfei saw that Bailey Hongzhuang's attitude towards her was so cold and indifferent, she didn't even answer her question. That look of disdain made it seem as if even arguing with her was a waste of energy. The hatred in her eyes grew even stronger. I have stayed in Limitless Palace for so long, but I have never seen someone as arrogant as you. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang's back, Chu Yingfei angrily shouted. Unfortunately, Bailey Hongzhuang left Chu Yingfei with an indifferent back view. Even after Chu Yingfei said those words, she didn't even turn her head and didn't stop walking. Seeing this, Chu Yingfei could only stomp her feet angrily. In fact, with her current situation, she didn't have the strength to find trouble with Bailey Hongzhuang. After she woke up, she only felt that her entire body was weak and powerless. It was difficult for her to even stand firmly, let alone find trouble. However, in Chu Yingfei's mind, there was still a long way to go. Chapter 1896. Of course, if Chu Yingfei knew what Bailey Hongzhuang had done to her, she would not be as optimistic as she was now. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly walked in the direction of the palace. Many core disciples saw Bailey Hongzhuang walk in the other direction, and their eyes were filled with surprise. Isn't Bailey Hongzhuang heading towards the palace master's sleeping quarters? Why is she going there? I don't know. The palace master brought Bailey Hongzhuang here this morning. Maybe, she has some kind of relationship with the palace master. Chu Yingfei treated Bailey Hongzhuang so badly. Do you think Bailey Hongzhuang will tell the palace master and his wife about this? Everyone's eyes flashed with curiosity. They were now very curious about Bailey Hongzhuang. Previously, when they knew that Bailey Hongzhuang was a cultivator from Tiangang sect, they did not pay much attention to it. However, now that they saw Bailey Hongzhuang heading towards the palace master's sleeping quarters, they could not help but have other thoughts in their minds. Bailey Hongzhuang probably won't tell anyone about this. Pei Yifan slowly said. For many cultivators, there was no need to tell others about this matter that they could solve with their own strength. Following Pei Yifan's words, the rest of the cultivators could not help but look at Pei Yifan. Today, among all the people present, Pei Yifan and Bailey Hongzhuang's relationship was the closest. However, they also believed Pei Yifan's words. Bailey Hongzhuang knew that many cultivators were curious about the direction she left in. However, she did not intend to hide it. Currently, she was not clear about the other places in Limitless Palace. Therefore, she could not purposely go to other places just to hide her residence. Since her master and his wife did not arrange for her to stay in other places, it proved that there was no need to hide it. After Bailey Hongzhuang left to cultivate, Di Beichen stayed in the room to cultivate. The three beasts followed He Mu and wandered around the bedroom. After Yulin Feng and Nangong Wu sent Bailey Hongzhuang to the Wind Canyon to cultivate, they went to Bailey Hongzhuang's palace. Di Beichen obviously didn't need anything, but the three beasts needed a lot of food. Therefore, after Di Beichen told this to Yulin Feng and Nangong Wu, they sent people to prepare a lot of delicious food. After seeing the food, the three beasties felt as if they were in heaven. Now, not only did they have their own residence, but they also had an endless supply of delicious food. This was simply the life they had dreamed of. When Bailey Hongzhuang returned to the bedroom, she saw that Di Beichen and the three beasts were already waiting for her outside the bedroom. Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang had returned, Di Beichen's face was instantly filled with a joyful smile. To the current him, not seeing him for a day was like 3 years. Bailey Hongzhuang had only gone out to cultivate for a day, but he already missed her very much. It was just that he did not show it in front of others. Master, you're back. Xiao He leaped and rushed in front of Bailey Hongzhuang. Her furry face was filled with an excited smile. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and stroked Xiao He's furry head. It felt good to the touch. Chapter 1897. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Xiao He nodded repeatedly and said, "Of course. Master is now the young palace master of Limitless Palace. We can't lose face for master." Xiao Bai had already moved in front of Bailey Hongzhuang at this moment. Her round and bright eyes were filled with curiosity. "Master, how are the results of your cultivation today?" They were really curious about the palace master's cultivation with Bailey Hongzhuang. What kind of cultivation was this? What kind of benefits would it bring to master? This cultivation has some benefits for me. However, I'm afraid I won't be able to master it in a short period of time. It'll take some time before it's possible. Bailey Hongzhuang said slowly. "I see." White Lion scurried in front of Bailey Hongzhuang. As its body grew bigger, it could no longer pounce on Bailey Hongzhuang directly. If it wasn't careful, it could directly push Bailey Hongzhuang down. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the three active beasties in front of her. The smile in her eyes gradually deepened. Because of Chu Yingfei's constant trouble today, she felt that it was a waste of time. Her heart was filled with dissatisfaction and displeasure. However, after seeing the three beasties, her originally bad mood quickly turned for the better. Di Beichen slowly walked in front of Bailey Hongzhuang. He held Bailey Hongzhuang's shoulder with one hand. His extraordinarily handsome face was filled with a moving smile. "Wife, you've been cultivating for the whole day. Has it been tiring?" He was very clear that when his master was training him in the past, he had suffered a lot. Thinking about it, the palace master of Limitless Palace was training Bailey Hongzhuang. This must be an extremely harsh task. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled up slightly. The coldness that was originally used to deal with Chu Yingfei had instantly turned into infinite tenderness after meeting Di Beichen. "It's all right, it's not that hard," Bailey Hongzhuang replied. The situation in the Wind Canyon was a lot easier than she had expected. However, this Wind Canyon was only the first test for her cultivation of the limitless method. She wasn't very clear about what would happen after that. At present, she could only take one step at a time and complete one test after another. "Let's go eat first and replenish some nutrients." A faint smile appeared on Di Beichen's face. "Just in time. You can also tell me about today's cultivation." Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang nodded and smiled, "Okay." After hearing the words dinner together, the eyes of the three beasts immediately lit up. Eating was the happiest thing for them. Bailey Hongzhuang had been constantly exhausting her essence energy today to recover her essence energy. Now that she heard Di Beichen's words, she felt a pang of hunger in her stomach. This kind of cultivation consumption wasn't small. It seemed to consume essence energy, but it also consumed a certain amount of the body. When He Mu, who was not far away, saw Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang getting along so warmly, a smile appeared in his eyes. In the past, he rarely saw the young master reveal so many expressions. Ever since the young master's wife appeared, this situation had completely changed. Now that he saw the young master's happy appearance every day, he was really happy for the young master. The young master would only truly feel happy when the young master's wife was around. He only hoped that the young master's wife could always be by the young master's side. This way, the young master could always be happy. Chapter 1898. While they were talking, Bailey Hongzhuang also told Di Beichen about what happened today. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Di Beichen couldn't help but frown. "If that's the case, that Chu Yingfei is really finding trouble with you everywhere." A mere core disciple actually dared to find trouble with his wife. Di Beichen's eyes couldn't help but be filled with a hint of coldness. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled slightly. "It's nothing. I've already punished her. I believe that it won't be long before she disappears from the ranks of the core disciples." Most of the time, dealing with a person didn't require any obvious means. The reason why one had to defeat the opponent directly was because one valued or respected the opponent. However, for someone like Chu Yingfei, Bailey Hongzhuang didn't need to spend so much effort. As long as she used a little trick, she could make Chu Yingfei disappear. As Bailey Hongzhuang's voice fell, Di Beichen also saw Bailey Hongzhuang's confident look. He was very clear about what kind of means his wife had. From when he first met Bailey Hongzhuang until now, the methods Bailey Hongzhuang used could be said to be endless. As long as his wife had the intention to deal with it, it was undoubtedly a simple matter. For that kind of annoying person, you should ruthlessly teach her a lesson. Xiao He puffed up her cheeks angrily. This Chu Yingfei really didn't know what to do. She actually dared to take the initiative to find trouble with Master. "I think that we should follow Master to cultivate today. That Chu Yingfei is so annoying. If we're here, she won't be able to reason with us." Xiao Bai curled its lips. It understood its master's temperament. Under normal circumstances, its master would be too lazy to waste her breath on others, unless it was a direct confrontation. At this time, their existence was needed. After all, they had nothing to do. Arguing was also one of their pleasures. Tomorrow, we'll follow Master to the Wind Canyon to cultivate. Baisher said. Master couldn't violate Wuji Palace's rules and directly kill Chewing-Fei. However, it was only a beast. Even if it killed Chewing-Fei, it had nothing to do with its master. After all, beasts also had times when they went crazy. Hearing Baisher's words, Xiao He and Xiao Bai both nodded. They had been staying in the house cultivating these days and there was no point in doing so. It would be more interesting to go out with their master. Looking at the three beasts' indignant looks, Bailey said, "You don't have to be like this. I don't care about this kind of thing. This kind of thing doesn't matter." When she was at a level, she had completely facing other people causing a farce causing a hongzhuang creating. "We don't care, we're going anyway." The three beasts said in unison. Tomorrow, they wanted to see what kind Chu Yayuyus. Hun, they. It. They. Otherwise, they'll get fatter and fatter if they keep staying in the palace. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. Looking carefully, the three beasts had indeed gained quite a bit of weight these days. They stayed in the palace all day and only ate. Going out to cultivate for a while was not a bad choice. Chapter 1899. Di Baichen smiled as he looked at the three beasties. However, he had his own thoughts in his mind. He understood Hong Zhuang's character. Most of the time, Hong Zhuang would not care about other people's attacks. However, he could not bear to see someone attack Hong Zhuang. Even if it was just words. He was the young sect master of Tiangang sect. With his status, he naturally could not cultivate with Hong Zhuang. Therefore, as long as the three beasties were by Hong Zhuang's side, he could rest assured. The three beasties were also masters who wished for the world to be in chaos. In terms of bickering, there was probably no one who could beat them. Moreover, the three beasties were not weak. If they wanted to fight, they did not need to worry. Since that's the case, then all of you can cultivate with me tomorrow. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. In the past, the three beasties had always been by her side. Ever since the assessment competition, the three beasties had often been separated from her. Now that the three beasties were going to cultivate with her again, she was equally happy. After all, the three beasties were extremely close to her. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, the three beasties' eyes were filled with excitement. "That's great!" Xiao He, Xiao Bai, and Baisher exclaimed excitedly. They had long been secretly thinking in their hearts that they would go to Wind Canyon tomorrow to see what kind of person Chewing-Fei was. After dinner, Bailey Hongzhuang only felt a thick and warm atmosphere. This kind of feeling really made people reluctant to leave. She really hoped that they could continue living like this in the future. After dinner, Bailey Hongzhuang prepared to return to her room to rest. However, just as she was about to return to her room to rest, Great Elder Gu Taihong suddenly came. Seeing Gu Taihong's appearance, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes could not help but be filled with a hint of doubt. A smile bloomed on her face. "Great Elder, why are you here?" "Young Palace Master." Gu Taihong bowed towards Bailey Hongzhuang. Now, Bailey Hongzhuang was the young palace master of Limitless Palace. Therefore, there was no problem with his address. Bailey Hongzhuang's expression changed slightly, but she didn't say anything. Di Baichen's eyes were filled with a faint smile. Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang had obtained the recognition of Limitless Palace, he felt happy for Hongzhuang from the bottom of his heart. Although Hong Zhuang had only just started cultivating with Yulin Feng, it was obvious that all of them were certain that Hong Zhuang would be able to pass this test. The palace lord asked me to bring you to a place. Gu Taihong said slowly, his kind and amiable face rippling with a kind smile. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. Although she didn't know where Elder Gu was taking her, since it was arranged by her master, it could be another form of improvement for her. After Di Beichen knew about this matter, there was a hint of worry in his eyes. Bailey Hongzhuang had already cultivated in Wind Canyon for an entire day. She never thought that she would have to go out to cultivate again. It seemed that Yulin Feng intended to let Hong Zhuang race against time to cultivate. Although he felt a little heartache in his heart, Di Beichen did not show it on his face. After all, Bailey Hongzhuang wanted to become the successor of Limitless Palace. It was inevitable that she would have to undergo some tests. Moreover, Hong Zhuang was now wholeheartedly focused on improving her cultivation. With such an opportunity, it was impossible for her to reject it. If young sect master Di is interested, you can also come along. Gu Taihong smiled. Chapter 1900. As long as he could accompany Hong Zhuang, it was enough to make Di Beichen happy. No matter what kind of training it was, he could give some pointers by Hong Zhuang's side. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into a smile. Beichen specially accompanied her to Limitless Palace. If Beichen could accompany her, she would be very happy. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen preparing to leave together, the three beasts couldn't help but gather in front of Bailey Hongzhuang. Master, we want to go too. If they were not allowed to go, then they would enter the Chaos Ring. In this way, they would know what kind of training it was. Looking at the three beasts' fervent gazes, Bailey Hongzhuang understood that they really wanted to go and take a look. Gu Taihong already knew that these three beasts were Bailey Hongzhuang's contract beasts. Moreover, these three contract beasts' ranks were very high. At this moment, looking at the three beasts, the amazement in his eyes became even more intense. Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but look at Gu Taihong. She also didn't know if the three beasts could go. Gu Taihong thought for a moment, then said, "Then let's go together." Bailey Hongzhuang was now the young palace master of Limitless Palace. From the palace master's decision, it could be seen that the palace master had taught Bailey Hongzhuang everything without holding back. Since that was the case, contract beasts had always been the cultivator's most loyal companions. Therefore, there was no relationship at all. He believed that the palace master would think so too. After getting Gu Taihong's approval, the three beasts jumped up excitedly. They had just arrived at Limitless Palace and didn't know anything about Limitless Palace. It would be great if they had the opportunity to experience it. Under Gu Taihong's lead, Bailey Hongzhuang, Di Beichen, and the three beasts came to the depths of Limitless Palace. This place was extremely secretive. If it wasn't for Gu Taihong leading the way, they wouldn't have been able to come here. It was really surprising. From this secretive situation, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen could determine that this should be a secret place. Even in the entire Limitless Palace, not many people would know about it. Master, the elemental energy around here is much denser. Baisher sensed the surrounding situation and said slowly. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. She also felt it. Bailey Hongzhuang's spiritual power had always been very strong, and her perception of spiritual power was also very sharp. Therefore, not long after coming here, she had already sensed it. Not only that, but she also realized that the closer she was, the elemental energy was denser. A thought gradually appeared in Di Beichen's mind. Just like how he had a cultivation room in Tiangang's sect's bedroom, Limitless Palace should also have such an existence. Perhaps, Palace Master, you had asked Bailey Hongzhuang to go to that cultivation room to cultivate. With that extremely dense elemental energy, cultivating here could achieve twice the result with half the effort. However, Princess E actually agreed to let him come along, which was really beyond his expectations. Logically speaking, this kind of thing was a secret of the sect and wouldn't be told to others at all. However, Palace Master Yu was actually so assured of him. It was clear that Palace Master Yu trusted him. However, Di Beichen was very clear in his heart. Since Palace Master Yu trusted him so much, he naturally couldn't let Palace Master Yu down. Chapter 1901. Young Palace Master, Young Sect Master D, it's here. You may enter. Gu Taihong bowed to Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen with a smile on his face. The Palace Master has instructed that young Palace Master should cultivate here at night. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly, thank you for leading the way, Elder Gu. It's my duty. Gu Taihong smiled. Ever since he found out that Bailey Hongzhuang was the young sect master, Gu Taihong had grown to like Bailey Hongzhuang more and more after interacting with her. Not only did she not put on airs, but she was also exceptionally hardworking. Compared to the others, Bailey Hongzhuang was much stronger. After Gu Taihong left, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen looked at each other before the two of them walked into the palace. The palace was not very big. So far, this was the smallest palace that Bailey Hongzhuang had seen in Wuxia Palace. As the palace doors slowly opened, Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but look astonished when she saw the scene in front of her. Oh my God, isn't this the stairway to heaven that we saw in the ruins back then? Xiao He could not help but exclaim. Wasn't this the stairway to heaven that they saw back then? It was exactly the same. There were no changes at all. Thinking back to when the stairway to heaven had disappeared, they felt depressed. If they could cultivate on the stairway to heaven for a period of time, it would be great. Unfortunately, after Master had obtained the inheritance, the stairway to heaven had disappeared as well. They never thought that they would see the stairway to heaven again today. It was simply too shocking. The stairway to heaven really does exist. Xiao He was also in disbelief. If they could cultivate on the stairway to heaven, the speed of their cultivation would be astonishing. This treatment is too good. Baisher sighed. Although he relied on consuming monster crystals to increase his strength, cultivating in such an environment was also beneficial to him. Most importantly, if Master cultivated here, his strength would definitely increase extremely quickly. When Di Beichen saw the stairway to heaven, his usually calm face was filled with shock. This method was much better than the cultivation room in Tiangang sect. At this moment, Di Beichen finally understood why Palace Master Yu had suddenly risen to power. Her speed of improvement was beyond everyone's expectations. With such a powerful weapon, it would be difficult to slow down one's cultivation speed. Bailey Hongzhuang stared at the stairway to heaven in front of Beichen. She admired her master's method when she first saw the stairway to heaven. Back then, she felt that this stairway was not simulated because it was too difficult to simulate such an environment. It was simply impossible for an average person to simulate such a high concentration of essence energy. It was simply unbelievable. Now, after seeing the stairway to heaven now, she's understood. Which was why the stairway to Beichen's stairs had disappeared. Master actually allowed me to cultivate on the stairway to heaven. Then, my cultivation speed in these 2 months will definitely be twice the result with half the effort. She had already understood the density of the stairway to heaven. With her current ability, standing at the top of the stairway to cultivate was no problem at all. Whether it was her or Di Beichen, staying here to cultivate would allow them to improve very quickly. Chapter 1902. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen looked at each other. Their hearts were filled with gratitude towards Yu Linfeng. Yu Linfeng being able to let them come here to cultivate already expressed his trust in them. After all, the fact that Limitless Palace had such an existence was really enviable. Once this news was spread out, the stairway to heaven would be coveted by countless people. Limitless Palace would also become the target of public criticism. This action of Yu Linfeng's was taking a huge risk. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen understood this point. Therefore, their gratitude towards Yu Linfeng grew even stronger. Yu Linfeng was willing to accept this risk. However, they would not let Yu Linfeng make the wrong bet. Otherwise, they would not tell anyone about this matter. The three beasts naturally knew the importance of this matter. Therefore, they understood that they could not tell anyone about this matter. Bailey Hongzhuang immediately walked up the stairway to heaven. Ever since she came out of the ruins, she had never seen the stairway to heaven again. Now that she had the chance to climb the stairway to heaven again, she had a different kind of sigh in her heart. Di Beichen had heard about the mystical stairway to heaven before. Now that he saw it with his own eyes, he was even more shocked. All these years, as the young sect master of Tiangang sect, he had seen countless mystical things. However, ever since he saw Hongzhuang's chaos ring, he realized that the mystical things he had seen in the past were nothing. However, now that he saw the stairway to heaven in Limitless Palace, he felt that this stairway to heaven was also a rare treasure. No matter which cultivator, as long as they had the opportunity to cultivate on this stairway to heaven, it was equivalent to them having a cultivation cheat. Even if they did not have enough cultivation resources, under such rich elemental energy, it was definitely not something that ordinary people could compare with. If a cultivator with good conditions had the stairway to heaven, he was afraid that no one would be his opponent. Now that Hongzhuang could cultivate here, 3 months was equivalent to nearly 3 years of cultivation in the outside world. If Hongzhuang stayed in Limitless Palace for a longer period of time, it would not be difficult for her to defeat Lan Qinyan. Bailey Hongzhuang quickly reached the top of the stairway to heaven. Back then, she had already endured all kinds of pressure from the stairway to heaven. Therefore, it was not a big deal for her to endure it again. The current stairway to heaven did not need to withstand the previous test, so the pressure of the last 2 steps was not as shocking. What's more, they only needed to cultivate with sufficient elemental energy. They didn't need to reach the highest level. Di Beichen also felt the pressure of each step of the stairway to heaven. He also understood the effort that Hongzhuang had put in to climb up the stairway to heaven. It was definitely not something that could be described with the word difficult. After Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang reached the top of the stairway to heaven, Di Beichen also felt the richness of the elemental energy. This elemental energy is so rich, it's really amazing. Di Beichen's face could not hide the amazement on his face. He had heard about the magic of the stairway to heaven from Xia Jiqing before. It was not until now that he really saw it that he understood that everything Xia Jiqing said was true. It was even more magical than what Xia Jiqing said. Looking at Di Beichen's amazed look, the smile on Bailey Hongzhuang's lips could not help but widen. Chapter 1903. If I can cultivate on this stairway of heaven, then the speed of improvement will be much faster than others. I think that this stairway of heaven might be a kind of divine weapon. Di Beichen's eyes were filled with contemplation. Bailey Hongzhuang's chaos ring was extremely magical. If he had not seen it with his own eyes, he would not have believed that such a divine weapon existed. The chaos ring had overturned all his previous understanding of divine weapons. Therefore, when he saw this stairway of heaven at this moment, he felt that it might also be a divine weapon. Hearing Di Beichen's words, Bailey Hongzhuang thought for a moment. She felt that what Di Beichen said also had a certain truth. The existence of divine tools was often not the same form. Perhaps there were many different forms that were not known by others. Perhaps, some heaven-defying existences were divine weapons. These divine weapons could not be understood by others at all. They could only make people marvel at their magic. The existence of the stairway of heaven itself was a heaven-defying existence. No one knew what kind of existence could make the origin energy so dense to such an extent. Moreover, it showed the changes of the stairway. Perhaps, it's really like this. Bailey Hongzhuang said slowly. She felt that her master must have obtained some heaven-defying opportunity. That was why he could have such strength at such a young age and even relied on his own strength to establish Limitless Palace. Among the top 10 sects in Shengxian continent, except for Limitless Palace, all the other sects had extremely strong foundations and many years of inheritance. Only Limitless Palace was a new force to be reckoned with. Although it did not have many years of inheritance like the other sects, its position was unshakable. Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang looked at each other and had a certain idea in their hearts. They understood in their hearts that cultivators who could achieve heaven-defying results often had opportunities that ordinary people did not have. Bailey Hongzhuang sighed deeply about this point. If not for the Chaos Ring, she was afraid that she would have to put in a lot of effort to reach this step. She believed that her master was a person with great fortune. Perhaps it was because of this that his master was so resolute when he took out the Rainbow Divine Pearl. After Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen talked for a while, they didn't waste any more time and immediately started cultivating. Now, they were all racing against time. They only hoped that the more time they spent cultivating, the more their strength would increase. The three beasts also stopped fooling around and focused on cultivating. Now that their master's strength was getting stronger and stronger, the pressure on them was also getting greater and greater. White Lion was now eating more and more demon crystals. In addition to the demon crystals they had obtained in the desert world, he was now eating without caring about anything else. The White Lion could increase its strength by consuming demon crystals. As long as it ate more, its strength would increase very quickly. Therefore, the pressure on White Lion was not that great. In comparison, Xiao He and Xiao Bai were under a lot more pressure. Back then, White Lion's strength could not be compared to theirs. But now, White Lion's speed of improvement was so fast that they felt a strong sense of urgency. Not only that, but Master's speed of improvement was even more perverse. Chapter 1904. If they did not cultivate with all their might, they would be left far behind by their master in the future. Then, they would no longer be of any help to their master. Don't be fooled by their usual unhurried appearance. In fact, they were very clear about the current situation. A night's time slowly passed by. The next day, when the sky gradually brightened, Bailey Hongzhuang exited from her cultivation state. Today, she still had to continue cultivating in Wind Canyon. She could not waste any more time here. After last night's cultivation, she discovered that after exhausting all the elemental energy in her body many times in Wind Canyon, and then coming to such a dense elemental energy environment to cultivate, her cultivation speed and effect were much stronger than usual. After discovering this, Bailey Hongzhuang felt that even if she cultivated in Wind Canyon during the day, her cultivation speed would not slow down at all. This was because if she cultivated in Sky Stairway during the day and night, although her cultivation speed would be much faster than usual, the effect would not be as good as cultivating in Wind Canyon. Therefore, this kind of cultivation method could not be better. Di Beichen naturally knew Bailey Hongzhuang's plan. After seeing Bailey Hongzhuang exiting from her cultivation state, he opened his eyes and smiled, "Wife, are you ready to go to Wind Canyon to cultivate?" Bailey Hongzhuang turned her gaze and saw Di Beichen's handsome face. Her ink-black eyes were filled with a sweet and charming smile. "It's already late. The other cultivators are also very hard-working. I think they should have already gone to Wind Canyon by now. I can't be late," Bailey Hongzhuang said. Now that the core disciples of Limitless Palace had treated her as an exchange disciple from Tiangang's sect, she had to make the best of it. Naturally, her performance would not lose to others. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Di Beichen nodded slightly. Although Bailey Hongzhuang's hard-working appearance made his heart ache, he had to admit that such a serious and hard-working Hongzhuang gave people an indescribable beauty. Her strength, her hard work, and her fearlessness were her greatest charms. Be careful when you cultivate. If you encounter any problems, you must tell me, Di Beichen reminded. He didn't want to see Hongzhuang suffer any losses. Hongzhuang didn't care, but his heart ached. Master, we'll go with you. The three beasties gathered in front of Bailey Hongzhuang. They had already told their master about this matter yesterday. Now that their master was preparing to cultivate, they naturally had to follow. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and nodded when she saw how excited the three beasts were. Alright, then let's go together. Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze landed on the three beasties. You must listen to me obediently in the Wind Canyon. Cultivate well and don't cause trouble everywhere. Bailey Hongzhuang was also very clear about the three beasties' ability to cause trouble. If they really wanted to cause trouble, then there would be a lot of trouble. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, the three beasties looked at each other and nodded. The most important thing now was to follow their master to the Wind Canyon. They could agree to anything else. Beichen, I'm going to the Wind Canyon now. Do you want to stay here or go to the palace? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. Chapter 1905. Di Beichen thought for a moment and said, I'll go back to the palace first and wait for you there. We'll come back together at night. The main reason why Palace Master Yu allowed them to come to this sky stairway to cultivate was because of Bailey Hongzhuang. Now that Bailey Hongzhuang had gone to Wind Canyon to cultivate, it wasn't appropriate for him to continue staying here. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang also understood Di Beichen's concerns and immediately nodded. Then bring me to cultivate in Wind Canyon and I'll go look for you after I return. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled sweetly. Her already outstanding face was now even more dazzling, making people unable to take their eyes off her. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen left the palace together. After following the two for a while, they separated. Bailey Hongzhuang went to Wind Canyon while Di Beichen went to the palace. On this day, when Bailey Hongzhuang came to Wind Canyon again, the way the core disciples of Limitless Palace looked at Bailey Hongzhuang was completely different from yesterday. When Pei Yifan saw Bailey Hongzhuang, he couldn't help but reveal a smile. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang also smiled slightly, expressing her goodwill. The three beasties followed closely behind Bailey Hongzhuang, their gazes constantly sizing up the crowd. They were really curious, who exactly was that Chewing Fei? This person actually dared to treat their master like that yesterday, she was really reckless. One must know that before Di Beichen left this morning, he had already informed them that if they saw someone who bullied their master, they definitely didn't need to be polite. Therefore, they came here today to solemnly look for trouble. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the three beasties who kept looking around, the smile in her eyes deepened. She had been with the three beasties for such a long time, so she naturally understood their personalities very well. Just by looking at how they had solemnly vowed to come to Wind Canyon to cultivate yesterday, she had already guessed the thoughts of the three beasts. However, if she guessed correctly, Chewing Fei would not come here to cultivate for the time being. While Bailey Hongzhuang and the three beasties were having their own thoughts, the core disciples of Limitless Palace had their eyes fixed on the three beasties. Their eyes were filled with deep shock. These three contracted beasts look very intelligent. Could they be Bailey Hongzhuang's contracted beasts? I think one of them should be Bailey Hongzhuang's contracted beast, but I don't know which one it is. Then why are the other two demonic beasts here? Everyone was puzzled. Contracted beasts were very hard to come by. Even if they were the core disciples of Limitless Palace, they couldn't find a suitable contracted beast in a short period of time. With their current status, it could be seen that they had boundless potential on the path of cultivation. If the contracted beast's level wasn't high, not only would it not be of any help to them in the future, it might even drag them down. Therefore, they were very careful when choosing their contracted beasts. However, there were also cultivators who had contracted beasts among them. Everyone had always been very envious of cultivators who had contracted beasts, but it was too difficult to find a suitable contracted beast. Now that they saw that Bailey Hongzhuang already had her own contracted beast, they were also envious in their hearts. Chapter 1906. It seems that Tiangang sect's treatment of cultivators is very good. Bailey Hongzhuang is just a new disciple and she already has her own contract beast. Even if she is the champion of the assessment competition, this treatment is already very good. Everyone sighed. Such treatment was really enviable. No one thought that this was Bailey Hongzhuang's contract beast. In fact, after they found out about Bailey Hongzhuang's identity yesterday, they went back and specifically inquired about the champion of the assessment competition. According to their understanding, Bailey Hongzhuang only came from an ordinary small dynasty and would not have such a background. However, in the process of understanding, they also found out about Bailey Hongzhuang's other identity. It was said that Bailey Hongzhuang was the sweetheart of Tiangang sect's young sect master. They had only heard a little about this news but were not very clear about it. However, according to the other disciples, they had seen Tiangang sect's young sect master, Di Beichen, come to Wuji Palace with a very outstanding-looking woman in white. After knowing this, they were more and more certain that this woman was Bailey Hongzhuang. At this moment, they had already understood why the palace master would specially bring Bailey Hongzhuang to Wind Canyon to cultivate. It was because of the relationship between Bailey Hongzhuang and Tiangang sect's young sect master. Therefore, when they saw Bailey Hongzhuang again today, their attitude became much more polite. If Tiangang sect's young sect master really liked Bailey Hongzhuang, then Bailey Hongzhuang would be the mistress of Tiangang sect in the future. They could not afford to offend such an identity. Bailey Hongzhuang is the sweetheart of Tiangang sect's young sect master, so it's normal for her to have such a reward. Why should we be envious? A woman sighed. With such an identity, they could not be envious at all. Tiangang sect's young sect master had always been famous and was the dream lover of countless women. Many women hoped that they could become the sweetheart of Tiangang sect's young lord. However, a dream was a dream after all. It was impossible to realize. However, because the young sect master of Tiangang sect had never confirmed his sweetheart over the years, everyone still had some fantasies in their hearts. Previously, everyone thought that Han Xiling and Di Beichen were a match made in heaven, but this news was later denied by everyone. This news had once made many female cultivators jump for joy, but now, with the appearance of Bailey Hongzhuang, their fantasies were completely shattered. Hearing the woman's words, everyone nodded in agreement. Although there was some bitterness in his heart, he had to admit that what she said was the truth. Although they had only met Bailey Hongzhuang yesterday, Bailey Hongzhuang had already proven her strength through her performance. Not only that, they could also determine that Bailey Hongzhuang was extremely talented. In contrast, in the face of such a Bailey Hongzhuang, they were also somewhat ashamed. In terms of appearance, strength, and potential, Bailey Hongzhuang was better than them. Di Beichen liking Bailey Hongzhuang was also very normal. Although Bailey Hongzhuang's identity was not outstanding, Bailey Hongzhuang's potential was huge. Chapter 1907. When Bailey Hongzhuang heard everyone's discussion, she knew that everyone already knew about her relationship with Di Beichen. Speaking of which, Di Beichen was too high profile when he brought her back from the assessment competition. Yesterday, when the core disciples of Limitless Palace found out about her identity, they must have gone back and asked around. She believed that as long as they asked around, they would know the reason behind it. Regarding this point, Bailey Hongzhuang never planned to hide it. In fact, Di Baichen accompanied her to Limitless Palace. This was witnessed by many cultivators. Since Bailey Hongzhuang has her own contracted beast, why are there 3 contracted beasts here? Everyone was puzzled. Why did the other 2 demonic beasts come here? Almost everyone's gaze was fixed on the 3 demonic beasts. From the intelligent eyes of the 3 demonic beasts, they could tell that these 3 demonic beasts' ranks were not low. For a moment, many cultivators had some thoughts in their minds. Since Bailey Hongzhuang could only have 1 contracted beast, the remaining 2 demonic beasts were ownerless. If their ranks were high enough and they were suitable for them, they might be able to get the contract beasts at a high price after getting closer to Bailey Hongzhuang. The white tiger-like demonic beast was obviously not small and was not suitable for them. However, the black and white demonic beasts that looked exactly the same were small and exquisite. They must still be very young. The 3 demonic beasts were already used to other cultivators sizing them up. Whenever they went out with their master, it was inevitable that there would be many cultivators eyeing them. However, these people did not even look at their own abilities. Other than their master, they did not fancy anyone else. These people must be thinking of buying us to be their contracted beasts. They must be dreaming. Xiao Hei's eyes were filled with ridicule. Other than their master, no one else was qualified to be their master. However, it was obvious that these people did not realize this point. Back when they went to the Snow Origin country, there were people who tried to buy them by force. However, they all ended up in a miserable state. That's right. They should take a look at their own capabilities. Xiao Bai's eyes were filled with disdain and mockery. Speaking of which, it and Xiao Hei were famous demonic beasts. Who knew that these people didn't even know what kind of demonic beasts they were? They always thought that it was easy to buy them. It was simply an insult to them. In comparison, Bai Shi's mood was much better. It had also overheard the conversations of the other cultivators. Most of the cultivators believed that it was its master's contracted beast, while Xiao Hei and Xiao Bai were not. After all, its body had grown bigger and bigger. It didn't look like a young demonic beast at all, but a demonic beast that had grown up by its master's side. As its body gradually grew, it discovered that its strength was also constantly increasing. The quality of its entire body was constantly improving. It felt that as long as it continued to develop like this, it would become extremely powerful in the future. Xiao Hei and Xiao Bai were speechless when they saw how excited Bai Shi was. Chapter 1908. Noticing Xiao Hei and Xiao Bai's gazes, Bai Shi shook its head. It still looked very proud. Xiao Hei and Xiao Bai had a habit of acting cute. They were used to appearing in front of others in their smallest forms. One must know that Xiao Hei and Xiao Bai were extraordinarily big when they were in the desert world. Now that it had grown up, its master could no longer carry it while walking. Xiao Hei and Xiao Bai could still sit on its master's shoulders. In comparison, Bai Shi felt very unbalanced. However, it seemed that there were still some benefits. After seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's contracted beast, Pei Yifun's eyes were filled with doubt. When he found out about Bailey Hongzhuang's identity, his heart was filled with surprise. However, after thinking about it carefully, he felt that it was not strange for someone as outstanding as Bailey Hongzhuang to have such an identity. Perhaps, such an identity was the most suitable one. Pei Yifun's heart was also filled with yearning for a contracted beast. However, he also knew that it was too difficult to find one suitable for him. Even in the entire Wuji Palace, there were not many cultivators who had contracted beasts. Pei Yifun slowly walked in front of Bailey Hongzhuang with a warm smile on his handsome face. "Miss Bailey, is this your contracted beast?" Pei Yifun asked. He did not have any ideas about Xiao Hei and Xiao Bai. He had always been curious about cultivators who had contracted beasts. In his heart, he had never given up on having his own contracted beast. Therefore, when he saw other cultivators with contracted beasts, he could not help but want to know more about them. In this way, when he had the chance in the future, he would be able to find a more suitable contracted beast. Bailey Hongzhuang saw the curiosity and envy in Pei Yifan's eyes at a glance. However, Pei Yifan did not reveal any covetous expression. Just like Pei Yifan's upright personality, it could be seen at any time. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly and smiled, "That's right. They are my contracted beasts." Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's answer, Pei Yifan was not surprised. He only looked at the three beasts and asked, "May I know which one is your contracted beast?" However, the three beasts' gazes fell on Pei Yifan. They had mixed feelings about this person who suddenly appeared and asked them a question. However, seeing Pei Yifan's expression, they guessed that he had a good relationship with their master, so they did not show any hostility. "They are all my contracted beasts," Bailey Hongzhuang slowly said. She did not tell others that she had 3 contracted beasts because she was too weak at that time. If others knew this news of her, they would inevitably be careless. There was no need to continue hiding it. There was no longer any need to continue hiding it. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Pei Yifan's eyes were filled with astonishment. He looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in shock, wondering if he had heard wrongly. She had contracted 3 beasts. This was simply impossible. However, looking at Bailey Hongzhuang's calm expression, it did not seem like she was joking. Chapter 1909. When they heard Bailey Hongzhuang say that these 3 beasts were her contracted beasts, everyone thought that Bailey Hongzhuang was joking. Because that was simply impossible. Every cultivator in the Xingxian continent knew that a cultivator could only contract 1 beast. It was impossible for them to have 2 or more contracted beasts. For a moment, everyone's gaze fell on Pei Yifan. They only hoped that Pei Yifan would continue to ask so that they could be more certain of the answer. "Miss Bailey, are these 3 your contracted beasts?" Pei Yifan's eyes flickered with uncertainty. He had never heard of such a thing before. Facing Pei Yifan's doubtful gaze, Bailey Hongzhuang was very calm. In fact, she had experienced such things many times before. Whenever someone heard that she had 3 contracted beasts, they would feel that it was inconceivable. Therefore, they would often have to ask many times before they could be certain. "That's right, they are all my contracted beasts." Bailey Hongzhuang spoke again. Even after receiving Bailey Hongzhuang's answer, Pei Yifan's shock did not diminish. This was because he simply could not understand how Bailey Hongzhuang was able to do this. This had really overturned his understanding. Facing Pei Yifan's doubts, Bailey Hongzhuang did not intend to explain. Other than Di Beichen, she had not explained this to anyone else. After seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's expression, Pei Yifan naturally knew that Bailey Hongzhuang would not explain. This kind of thing was often a cultivator's secret. Bailey Hongzhuang must have some special means to be able to have this kind of special ability. If he continued to ask, it would be his fault. After hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's answer, the other cultivators' expressions changed again and again. This answer was simply too difficult to accept. When the 3 beasts noticed the change in everyone's expressions, they could not help but smile slyly. In the next moment, Bai Shi appeared beside Bailey Hongzhuang. Xiao He and Xiao Bai directly jumped onto Bailey Hongzhuang's shoulders. Their intimate behavior clearly showed that they were Bailey Hongzhuang's contracted beasts. After witnessing this scene, Pei Yifan no longer had any doubts about Lu Xian's identity. There was always a certain distance between a demonic beast and a cultivator. Other than contracted beasts who were very close to their masters, other demonic beasts would not be so close to a cultivator. The 3 contracted beasts had used their actions to prove their relationship with Bailey Hongzhuang. The cultivators who originally still had some thoughts about Xiao He and Xiao Bai completely gave up after seeing this scene. Heavens, Bailey Hongzhuang has 3 contracted beasts, how? How? I just don't understand. How did she do it? Yeah, I've never heard of this before. It's really too shocking. Everyone was confused. They simply could not understand how Bailey Hongzhuang did it. However, since Bailey Hongzhuang was unwilling to say, they could not ask. They could only silently guess in their hearts but could not get an answer. Chapter 1910. Everyone only felt that Bailey Hongzhuang's body was filled with a lot of secrets, which made people unable to understand. Compared to the contempt when they first met Bailey Hongzhuang, it was a completely different feeling now. Thinking about how Chu Yingfei had thoroughly offended Bailey Hongzhuang yesterday, everyone felt that it was a little funny. Chu Yingfei was really digging her own grave now. According to the information they received, the young sect master of Tiangang sect doted on Bailey Hongzhuang very much. If the young sect master of Tiangang sect knew about what happened yesterday, Chu Yingfei would definitely not have a good ending. Speaking of which, why didn't I see Chu Yingfei come today? Could it be that she already knows Bailey Hongzhuang's true identity? A cultivator voiced his doubts. After knowing Bailey Hongzhuang's true identity yesterday, he was very curious. What kind of expression would Chu Yingfei show when she saw Bailey Hongzhuang today? It was just that today was already past the gathering time, but Chu Yingfei had never appeared. Could it be that she didn't have the courage to come? Hearing the words of this cultivator, everyone couldn't help but look behind, their expressions revealing a bit of curiosity and ridicule. If Chu Yingfei really didn't come today, it would be really funny. It's right that Chu Yingfei didn't come. If she came, I'm afraid her fate would be even worse. Now everyone already knew that Bailey Hongzhuang was definitely not a person to be trifled with. In comparison, what Bailey Hongzhuang did to Chu Yingfei yesterday was already considered a lighter punishment. That's true, but you can't hide forever. Everyone snickered. Originally, Bailey Hongzhuang had already let Chu Yingfei go yesterday, but Chu Yingfei wanted to court death and kept harassing Bailey Hongzhuang. At this moment, Chu Yingfei must have regretted it to the extreme. In everyone's opinion, Bailey Hongzhuang's temper was already very good. If it was anyone else, as long as they had the ability, Chu Yingfei would probably not be able to escape death. Just as everyone was secretly mocking Chu Yingfei had already fallen into a state of collapse. Ever since she suffered such intense pain yesterday, she felt that her entire body had no strength. Thus, Chu Yingfei directly began to rest. When she woke up this morning, she prepared to head to Wind Canyon to cultivate. However, when she woke up, she felt that something was wrong with her. After a careful examination, she suddenly realized that her strength had changed from Green Realm Level 5 to Green Realm Level 1. After discovering this point, Chu Yingfei only felt that she must be dreaming. This was something that simply couldn't happen. It was impossible for his strength to mysteriously regress. However, what happened next caused Chu Yingfei to completely collapse. This was because no matter how she tried, she realized that the elemental energy in her body remained at Green Realm Level 1. It was as if her cultivation had suddenly deteriorated overnight, but she couldn't find the problem at all. What happened last night? Chu Yingfei was confused. Her pretty face was filled with nervousness and worry. As a core disciple of Limitless Palace, strength was the most important thing. Originally, after losing 3 months of cultivation resources, her mood was already very bad. But now that her strength had suddenly regressed so much, she would completely lose the qualifications to become a core disciple. Under such circumstances, she had no way to face the others. Chapter 1911. Chu Yingfei sat on the bed with a pale face. Her expression was stupefied and panicked. It was as if an unknown fear filled her heart. This is impossible. I only slept last night and didn't do anything. How could my strength suddenly drop so much? Chu Yingfei shook her head. This was absolutely impossible. There must be a reason. She simply couldn't bear the consequences of her strength falling. She had to recover her strength as soon as possible. It wasn't easy for her to obtain her current status and strength. If she lost the title of core disciple just like that, who knows how many cultivators she would offend with her previous arrogant personality. Once she became an ordinary disciple again, she was afraid that people who wanted to cause trouble for her would come knocking on her door one after another. Chu Yingfei forced herself to calm down. After thinking for a long time, she couldn't help but think of Bailey Hongzhuang. Yesterday, Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly made her fall into a sharp pain. When she woke up again, she didn't notice the change in her strength. Now that she thought about it, there was no other possibility other than Bailey Hongzhuang doing something. Bailey. Hong. Zhuang. Chu Yingfei gritted her teeth. Every word was squeezed out from the gaps of her teeth. Her dark and deep eyes were filled with resentment. Her expression was ferocious to the extreme. She looked as if she couldn't wait to kill Bailey Hongzhuang right now. This woman really deserves to die. If I wasn't a bit slower yesterday, she would already be dead. Chu Yingfei's heart was filled with regret. It was because he took a wrong step that the current situation became like this. After confirming Bailey Hongzhuang, Chu Yingfei decided to find Bailey Hongzhuang and force Bailey Hongzhuang to hand over the antidote. Now Bailey Hongzhuang was her only chance. If Bailey Hongzhuang didn't give her the antidote, then she really could only die. She believed that if she told this matter to Elder Su, Bailey Hongzhuang would become an evil person who persecuted cultivators. Furthermore, Bailey Hongzhuang was not a cultivator of Limitless Palace. If she dared to do such a thing to him, the sect would definitely not let her off. One had to know that core disciples were the most important resource for every sect. In the next moment, Chu Yingfei immediately got up and walked out of the house, heading towards the Wind Canyon. She wanted to question Bailey Hongzhuang in front of everyone. When Bailey Hongzhuang was embarrassed, she would obediently hand over the antidote to her. The three beasts kept looking around, but after looking for a long time, they didn't see Chu Yingfei's figure, so they could only give up their initial plan. That guy is lucky that he didn't come today. Otherwise, I would definitely teach him a lesson. Xiao He pursed her lips. She originally wanted to teach Chu Yingfei a lesson today, but she didn't expect Chu Yingfei to not come. It was really disappointing. I don't believe that she'll hide forever. Anyway, we've been cultivating with Master these days. We'll see her sooner or later. Xiao Bai was quite calm. It believed that since Chu Yingfei was a core disciple of Limitless Palace, she would definitely come to cultivate. After all, Limitless Palace had such a good cultivation environment. If she still didn't come, the elders would definitely blame her. Hearing Xiao Bai's words, Xiao He and Bai nodded. What it said was very reasonable. At most, they would wait here and see who could outlast the other. Chapter 1912. Thinking about it, when Chu Yingfei woke up this morning, she realized that her elemental energy had regressed. Chu Yingfei was probably still in shock and panic. However, she believed that Chu Yingfei would come to find her soon. After all, it was easy to think that she was the one who did it. However, she would come a little later. No matter what Chu Yingfei thought, she would not hand over the antidote. With Chu Yingfei's disgusting personality, she should be punished. She believed that in a few days, Chu Yingfei would disappear from the group of core disciples. Since she had already come to Wuxia Palace to cultivate, although she did not want to take the initiative to cause trouble, she would not be polite when someone came to find trouble with her. Killing the chicken to warn the monkey often had a good effect. Master, how do we cultivate in Wind Canyon? Baisher looked at the Wind Canyon in front of him. It saw that many cultivators had already walked in, but it felt that there was nothing special about this Wind Canyon. Xiao He and Xiao Bai's gazes also fell on the Wind Canyon. They curiously looked at the Wind Canyon. Yesterday, when they heard their master talk about the Wind Canyon, they were very curious. However, at a glance, this Wind Canyon was just an ordinary canyon. It was hard to believe that it had such a special effect. Go in and take a look. You will know if what I said is true or not. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. When she saw this Wind Canyon for the first time yesterday, she also had the same doubts. However, after seeing it for herself, she understood the magic of this place. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, the three beasties nodded and followed closely behind Bailey Hongzhuang into the Wind Canyon. Bailey Hongzhuang continued to try to prevent the elemental energy in her body from dissipating quickly. Her walking speed was not fast, and the three beasties also followed behind her to feel the effects of this strange hurricane. This hurricane is too magical. The elemental energy in my body is dissipating quickly. Xiao He could not hide the shock in her eyes. When she heard her master talk about it yesterday, she felt that it was very magical. Seeing it with her own eyes today, she finally understood how powerful this hurricane was. It had seen many mystical things, but it had never seen a hurricane that could remove origin power. It's too difficult to stay here for 4 hours. Xiao Bai's eyes rippled with emotion. Its current strength wasn't considered weak, but in this Wind Canyon, its origin energy dissipated extremely quickly. It simply couldn't hold on for that long. Not to mention 4 hours, even half an hour would be difficult to persevere. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded when she heard Beastie's sigh. It's indeed not easy to stay here for 4 hours. However, we can only continue to work hard now. Since the requirement is to stay for 4 hours, it means that there must be a way to do it. It's just that we haven't reached that step yet. Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was indifferent. When she heard Elder Su mention this assessment requirement, she knew that someone must have completed it. That was why there was such a requirement. Hence, she was neither anxious nor impatient. During this process, she slowly looked for a way to raise her strength. After the three beasties saw Bailey Hongzhuang's firm and confident appearance, their eyes were also filled with a touch of firmness. Chapter 1913. Bailey Hongzhuang and the three beasties were focused on training in the Wind Canyon. The other disciples of Limitless Palace were also walking in the Wind Canyon. They had been training in the Wind Canyon for a longer period of time, so they had some experience. The time they could stay in the Wind Canyon was much longer than Bailey Hongzhuang. Any cultivator with decent strength would have their own secret. This was the foundation of their existence, so they would not casually tell this to other cultivators. After all, everyone was in a competitive relationship. The more outstanding one's performance was, the greater the pressure on the others. Bailey Hongzhuang naturally knew what everyone was thinking, so she did not ask anyone and only relied on herself to explore. Bailey Hongzhuang told her thoughts to the three beasties. After the three beasties heard it, they understood and immediately followed Bailey Hongzhuang's method to train. Almost all the cultivators were in the same state. After the elemental energy in their body had dissipated, they walked out of the Wind Canyon to meditate and train. After their elemental energy had recovered, they walked back into the Wind Canyon to train. Bailey Hongzhuang's training method was the same as yesterday. After her elemental energy was exhausted, she used elixirs to recover. The three beasties chose to meditate to train. Compared to their master who was anxious to increase her strength, they were not that anxious. After all, elixirs were also very important training resources. It was normal for their master to use them. But if they were to use them together, it would be too wasteful. These elixirs were all refined by their master. If they were to use all the elixirs, then their master would have to spend a lot of time refining elixirs. It was undoubtedly a waste of their master's time. Bailey Hongzhuang naturally knew what the three beasties were thinking. Her heart was moved. When the other cultivators saw that the three contracted beasts were also cultivating with Bai Shui and Hongzhuang in the Wind Canyon, the amazement in their eyes became even more intense. There had always been a certain level of communication between a contract beast and its master. It was not something that outsiders could understand. However, the higher the level of spirituality it received, the higher its level. These three contracted beasts are too smart, aren't they? They actually know how to cultivate in the Wind Canyon while meditating here. I've seen many contracted beasts, but I've never seen contracted beasts with such intelligence. Yeah, I've never seen it either. If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes today, I wouldn't have believed it at all. I wonder what species these three contracted beasts are. I've never seen them before. I've observed them for a long time, but I've never heard of the existence of such beasts. Everyone looked at each other in dismay. They had never seen such a demonic beast before, so they couldn't understand. Logically speaking, they should know a lot about demonic beasts. After all, as a cultivator, it was necessary for them to understand demonic beasts. Moreover, they had always wanted to have a contract beast, so naturally, they would have a better understanding of some of the higher-level contract beasts. However, they really couldn't understand these three beasts. Logically speaking, with Bailey Hongzhuang's status, her contracted beasts' levels shouldn't be low. It was fine if one person didn't know, but when all of them didn't know, it was a little strange. Chapter 1914. Bailey Hongzhuang. A sharp and furious voice that was mixed with a roar immediately attracted everyone's attention. After Bailey Hongzhuang heard this voice, her eyebrows raised slightly, but her expression was indifferent and wanton. Who else could it be other than Chu Yingfei who came to find her at such a time and was so angry? After everyone heard Chu Yingfei's roar, their eyes were filled with surprise. Yesterday, when they found out about Bailey Hongzhuang's identity, they felt that Chu Yingfei must be regretting her past actions. They only hoped that they had never offended Bailey Hongzhuang. Presumably, when they saw Bailey Hongzhuang again today, she would definitely think of ways to make up for her mistakes yesterday. However, what they did not expect was that at this time, Chu Yingfei actually dared to roar at Bailey Hongzhuang. Wasn't this courting death? At this moment, everyone could not understand what was going on with Chu Yingfei. Bailey Hongzhuang, what did you do to me yesterday? Chu Yingfei stood in front of Bailey Hongzhuang. Her pitch-black eyes were mixed with flames of anger, as if she wanted to burn Bailey Hongzhuang to ashes. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Chu Yingfei indifferently and said, "Don't you know very well what I did? Now you're asking me?" Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's disapproving look, Chu Yingfei became even angrier. If Bailey Hongzhuang didn't admit it, it would be fine, but it was this look of helplessness that made people even angrier. Is Chu Yingfei's brain damaged? Or does she really not want to stay here anymore? Even today, she still treats Bailey Hongzhuang with such an attitude. A cultivator murmured, his voice filled with disbelief and incredulity. Logically speaking, with Bailey Hongzhuang's identity, everyone couldn't wait to curry favor with her. Chu Yingfei was still rushing to find trouble. Wasn't she just looking for trouble? Who knows what Chu Yingfei is thinking? Maybe she doesn't want to stay here. There's really a good show to watch now. Bailey Hongzhuang was lucky to let her go yesterday. I didn't expect Chu Yingfei to come looking for trouble now. No one can save her. Everyone stopped beside Bailey Hongzhuang and Chu Yingfei. They were really curious about how this matter would develop. When all the cultivators were sighing at Chu Yingfei's recklessness, in fact, Chu Yingfei had been resting since she went back yesterday. She didn't ask about Bailey Hongzhuang at all, so she didn't know the news that everyone knew. Bailey Hongzhuang, the reason why I've become like this, is it because of your secret tricks? Chu Yingfei questioned Bailey Hongzhuang. Although it was a question, her tone was firm. In her opinion, other than Bailey Hongzhuang, no one else would do this. What do you think I did to you? Bailey Hongzhuang asked faintly. Her eyes were filled with ridicule as she looked at Chu Yingfei with a smile that wasn't a smile. After the three beasties saw Chu Yingfei appear, their eyes brightened. So this is the person who caused trouble for Master yesterday. Xiao He narrowed her eyes. She originally wanted to find this person and teach her a lesson. She didn't expect this person to take the initiative to cause trouble for Master. This was really going against the heavens. It seems that Master didn't teach her a lesson yesterday. She still dares to be so arrogant today. Chapter 1915. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Chu Yingfei wanted to say that her strength had regressed. However, after noticing that there were so many cultivators around, she swallowed the words that she was about to say. This kind of thing had a great impact on her. If she couldn't recover as soon as possible and other cultivators found out about it, then she might not be able to stay here to cultivate today. Therefore, she could only quickly recover her strength without anyone knowing. Only in this way could she keep her position. Everyone looked at Chu Yingfei's hesitant look, and the curiosity in their eyes grew stronger. With Chu Yingfei's reckless personality, logically speaking, she would definitely be unable to hold herself back and directly say it. To be able to make her reveal such a hesitant look, this matter must be really not simple. Pei Yifan also walked over. After seeing the conflict between Chu Yingfei and Bailey Hongzhuang again, his brows furrowed tightly. He didn't understand why Chu Yingfei kept finding trouble with Bailey Hongzhuang. Wasn't she looking for trouble for herself? However, after hearing Chu Yingfei's words, he understood. It was likely that Bailey Hongzhuang's punishment for Chu Yingfei yesterday was not as simple as what they saw. After all, Chu Yingfei almost took Bailey Hongzhuang's life yesterday. Bailey Hongzhuang only punished her like that, which was indeed not heavy. After thinking for a moment, Chu Yingfei stomped her feet and said, "Bailey Hongzhuang, quickly restore my previous appearance. If you don't restore my strength, once I report this to Elder Su, you will definitely suffer." Seeing the threat in Chu Yingfei's eyes, Bailey Hongzhuang didn't care. Your words are really interesting. Restore your previous appearance. What was your previous appearance? What's the difference between now and then? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. Her beautiful and refined face rippled with a slight smile as she looked at Chu Yingfei teasingly. Speaking of which, this Chu Yingfei was really whimsical. It was easy to regress a cultivator's strength, but it was not easy to increase a cultivator's strength. From the moment she poisoned Chu Yingfei, she never thought of restoring Chu Yingfei's strength. What she wanted was for Chu Yingfei to disappear from this place. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang's deliberately pretending not to understand, Chu Yingfei was even angrier. It was precisely because this matter couldn't be said casually that she tried to cover it up, but it only made it more conspicuous. It was fine if other people didn't understand, but Bailey Hongzhuang was definitely the most clear. But now Bailey Hongzhuang had to pretend that she didn't know, which really made her depressed to the extreme. For a moment, Chu Yingfei. If he didn't say it, Bailey Hongzhuang would continue to pretend like this, but if he said it, everyone would know about it. At this moment, Chu Yingfei only wanted to find a private place to talk to Bailey Hongzhuang alone. Let's find a place to talk. Chu Yingfei said. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and said, "What can't be said in front of others? I'm not that familiar with you. There's no need to talk in private." Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's appearance, Chu Yingfei was furious. Bailey Hongzhuang was doing it on purpose. Chapter 1916. Bailey Hongzhuang shrugged indifferently. After yesterday's matter, she didn't think that Chu Yingfei would still be so stubborn. She truly deserved it. Then do as you wish. Just say it. I want to know, what can I gain from it? Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Chu Yingfei's breathing became sluggish and her face instantly became gloomy. It seemed that Bailey Hongzhuang grasped the fact that she didn't dare to say it, so she planned to intentionally humiliate her. Bailey Hongzhuang, are you sure you want me to say it? Chu Yingfei asked back. Bailey Hongzhuang faintly nodded and said, say it, tell me what it is. Seeing that, Chu Yingfei slightly paused. Her mind couldn't help but ponder whether she should directly say it or not. The gazes of the three beasties fell on Chu Yingfei. They were originally very dissatisfied with Chu Yingfei, and now that Chu Yingfei dared to be so aggressive, the anger in their hearts could be imagined. I say, what is it? If you have the ability, then say it. If you can't say it, then what are you doing here? Do you think that everyone has the same time as you? Xiao He mockingly looked at Chu Yingfei. Her voice was sharp and merciless. The sudden voice caused Chu Yingfei to be shocked for a moment. Her gaze couldn't help but look around. However, this voice clearly didn't belong to any of the core disciples. Just at this time, Chu Yingfei discovered that everyone's gazes were astonished as they looked at the white monstrous beast beside Bailey Hongzhuang. Heavens, did I hear wrong? This white monstrous beast can actually speak. I don't think I heard wrong. I also just heard this white monstrous beast speak. What kind of monstrous beast is this? It looks so small, but it actually knows the human language. This is too shocking. As everyone knew, although normal monstrous beasts could communicate with their masters, they simply couldn't speak the human language. However, Bailey Hongzhuang's white monstrous beast, at such a young age, was able to speak the human language. Just from this point, they were able to determine the level of this white monstrous beast. It was probably even more shocking than what they imagined. Chu Yingfei looked at the white demon beast in front of her in surprise. Her eyes were full of doubt. What are you? Chu Yingfei sized up Xiao He in front of him. Her white, furry body was like a round ball, which was very comical. However, her eyes were fixed on him, as if she had a deep hatred for him. You're the thing. Your whole family is trash. Xiao He's eyes were filled with anger. She didn't expect Chu Yingfei to be so rude. Her words were even more outrageous. Following Xiao He's words, Chu Yingfei was also dumbfounded. She clearly didn't expect Xiao He to have such a reaction. In fact, her words were not meant to insult Xiao He. However, she had never seen such a contract beast before, so she couldn't help but ask what it was. However, Xiao He obviously didn't think so. If it was said that it originally hated Chu Yingfei, then at this moment, it hated Chu Yingfei to the extreme. The surrounding cultivators couldn't help but laugh. This white monstrous beast's reaction was really interesting. It was much more interesting than the monstrous beasts they usually saw. I'm not a thing. Chu Yingfei angrily said. Chapter 1917. When Chu Yingfei said that, she realized that something was wrong. However, it was too late when she realized it. Xiao He's words were like a slap to her face. You're not a thing, your whole family is not a thing. Chu Yingfei hurriedly said, her face flushed red. She never thought that her slip of the tongue would be treated as a joke. Following Chu Yingfei's words, Xiao He's face instantly darkened. She looked at Chu Yingfei with a threatening gaze. You were the one who said that you're not a thing. Now you're blaming me. You're just a demonic beast. How dare you offend me? Do you believe that I won't kill you? Chu Yingfei looked at Xiao He unhappily. Although she was surprised that Xiao He could speak, Xiao He's current actions had already made her lose face. If she didn't express her attitude sternly, everyone would definitely laugh at her. When Chu Yingfei said that, Bailey Hongzhuang's originally cold face suddenly revealed a murderous intent. "What did you just say? Say it again if you have the guts." Bailey Hongzhuang's voice was cold. Her ink-black phoenix eyes rippled with a sharp and frightening light. Chu Yingfei actually dared to say such words to Xiao He. She, Bailey Hongzhuang's contracted beast, was not allowed to be bullied by anyone. Feeling Bailey Hongzhuang's sharp gaze, Chu Yingfei only felt a prickling sensation on her body. She didn't dare to look at her directly. Even when she almost killed Bailey Hongzhuang, she had never seen Bailey Hongzhuang so terrifying. However, at this moment, Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze was like that of an Asura from hell. That dense murderous intent made her heart tremble. Inexplicably, she felt her body turn cold. Her entire person had an indescribable feeling of discomfort. When everyone saw Bailey Hongzhuang's expression, their eyes changed and were dyed with a hint of fear. However, after thinking about it for a moment, everyone understood. If someone said in front of them that they wanted to kill their contract beast, presumably their attitude would not be better than Bailey Hongzhuang's current attitude. Contracted beasts were the most loyal companions of a cultivator. If someone dared to lay their hands on their contracted beasts, they would definitely not allow it. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Chu Yingfei understood that this white demon beast was Bailey Hongzhuang's contract beast. "So it's your contracted beast. No wonder it's the same as its master, so annoying." Chu Yingfei sneered. The first time she saw this white demonic beast, she felt as disgusted as the first time she saw Bailey Hongzhuang. Where did this guy come from? Nothing good can come out of a dog's mouth. Xiao Bai's eyes were filled with rage. This Chu Yingfei really had the ability to make people hate her the moment she opened her mouth. What's the point of talking so much to this kind of person? Just kill him. Baisher's attitude was cold. He didn't even want to look at Chu Yingfei. For this kind of person, just kill her. Baisher and Xiao Bai's attitudes were each more unyielding than the other. Over the years, they had followed their master everywhere and met many annoying cultivators. However, this was the first time they couldn't wait to kill someone. When everyone saw that Baisher and Xiao Bai could speak, their expressions became very interesting. Chapter 1918. Pei Yifan sized up Bailey Hongzhuang's 3 contracted beasts. They were a little different from other cultivators. The moment these 3 contracted beasts opened their mouths, he could tell what kind of state they were in. It seemed that Bailey Hongzhuang had restrained herself in Limitless Palace. If Chu Yingfei didn't meet Bailey Hongzhuang in Limitless Palace, but somewhere else, Bailey Hongzhuang would have already taken her life. Chu Yingfei sneered after seeing the arrogant attitude of the 3 contracted beasts. "You want to kill me with just the 3 of you? What a fool's dream." Chu Yingfei's eyes were full of disdain. Even if her strength had dropped, she was still a green mirror rank 1. With the strength of these 3 contracted beasts, it was impossible for them to be her opponent. The 3 beasts narrowed their eyes and looked at each other. Were they being looked down upon? "Master." The 3 beasts looked at Bailey Hongzhuang at the same time. They couldn't bear it anymore. This Chu Yingfei first said that she wanted to kill Xiao He, and now she dared to talk nonsense to them. If they didn't teach her a lesson, she wouldn't know why the flowers were so red. Looking at the eager looks of these 3 beasts, Bailey Hongzhuang thought for a moment and then said, "Chu Yingfei, since you keep saying that you're stronger than my beasts, why don't you have a competition with them? How about it?" Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Chu Yingfei glanced at the 3 beasts, and the ridicule in her eyes became even more obvious. "Bailey Hongzhuang, what kind of joke are you playing? They want to be my opponent. Chu Yingfei wouldn't fall for Bailey Hongzhuang's trick at all. If she competed with Bailey Hongzhuang's contracted beasts, regardless of whether she won or lost, it would be a joke. If she won, as a cultivator and a core disciple of Limitless Palace, she would have an unfair advantage. But if she lost, she wouldn't be able to raise her head again. Therefore, Chu Yingfei would never fall for such a trap. Seeing that Chu Yingfei did not immediately agree, the three beasts' eyes were filled with surprise. He originally thought that with Chu Yingfei's pig brain, she would immediately agree after hearing this. He didn't expect Chu Yingfei to be so smart at this time. The three beasties frowned. Chu Yingfei's previous actions really made them angry. If they didn't vent their anger, they definitely wouldn't be happy. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the angry attitude of these three beasts. She was afraid that if she didn't give them a chance to teach Chu Yingfei a lesson today, they would definitely not let this go. She had been with the three beasties for such a long time, so she knew their personalities very well. Judging from Chu Yingfei's attitude today, there would be a conclusion between them sooner or later. There was no time like the present. He might as well let the three beasts perform today. Chu Yingfei, didn't you say that you wanted me to turn you into your previous appearance? As long as you win against my three contracted beasts, I'll agree to it. How about it? Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Chu Yingfei provocatively, her expression indifferent and confident. She believed that Chu Yingfei would definitely agree. Because Chu Yingfei couldn't bear the consequences at all. Chu Yingfei, who was originally disdainful, after hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, her eyes changed slightly, and her heart became more and more resentful. She knew that this matter was caused by Bailey Hongzhuang. Chapter 1919. However, after hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, she was relieved. At least, this proved that Bailey Hongzhuang had a way to restore her. For a moment, Chu Yingfei kept thinking in her heart. Should she agree to Bailey Hongzhuang or refuse? If she agreed, she believed that with her strength, defeating these three contract beasts could be said to be a simple matter. However, it was always unfair for humans to win against beasts. Moreover, the black and white beasts were so small, it should be easy to fight. But if she didn't agree, she was afraid that Bailey Hongzhuang wouldn't hand over the antidote. She was still unwilling to tell others about this matter. After all, judging from Bailey Hongzhuang's previous attitude, if she didn't agree, Bailey Hongzhuang would definitely pretend that nothing happened. No matter how much she wanted it, it would be useless. After thinking about it, Chu Yingfei still chose to agree. This was the best solution at the moment. Okay, then I'll agree. As she spoke, Chu Yingfei's gaze couldn't help but fall on the three beasts. Her eyes were full of contempt and ridicule. However, with just these three little guys, if I kill them, don't regret it. Hearing Chu Yingfei's words, Bailey Hongzhuang and the three beasts' gazes turned cold. When the surrounding cultivators heard Chu Yingfei's excessive words, their expressions became interesting. They had seen people who were not afraid of death, but they had never seen someone who was not afraid of death like Chu Yingfei. Do you think we should tell Chu Yingfei about Bailey Hongzhuang's identity? Looking at her, it seems that she doesn't know anything about Bailey Hongzhuang's identity. With Chu Yingfei's current situation, even if we tell her about Bailey Hongzhuang's identity, it probably won't have any effect. Hearing this cultivator's words, everyone was silent for a moment. He was right. The conflict between Chu Yingfei and Bailey Hongzhuang had reached an irreversible point. Even if they wanted to mediate between them, it would be impossible. Moreover, if they could tell Chu Yingfei the relevant information now, Bailey Hongzhuang might think that they were on the same side as Chu Yingfei. This was not a good thing. Although Bailey Hongzhuang was the future wife of the young sect master of Tiangang's sect, she was not from Limitless Palace. However, as long as they had a good relationship with Bailey Hongzhuang, it would be helpful in the future. Master, let me go on stage, kill this guy in minutes. White Lion could no longer hold himself back. It had always been the one bullying other cultivators. No other cultivator had ever dared to speak to it in such a brazen manner. Little Black and Little White also rubbed their palms together. It seemed like they didn't display their strength in Limitless Palace, so everyone thought that they were incompetent. Today, they took advantage of this opportunity to show their strength. They wanted to let these people know that their strength was not as simple as it appeared on the surface. People couldn't be judged by their appearance, and beasts couldn't be judged by their appearance. Since you are so confident, then you and my contract beast will go to the life and death arena and decide the winner. How about it? Bailey Hongzhuang looked indifferent. When she said this, her tone was extremely determined, revealing a meaning that could not be disobeyed. Chu Yingfei was only at the first level of the Green Realm. Among the three beasts, Xiao He and Xiao Bai were at the 8th level of the Yellow Realm, and Baisher was at the 9th level of the Yellow Realm. Chapter 1920. During this period of time, the speed of improvement of the three beasts was already very amazing. Especially after cultivating in the desert world, the strength and combat strength of the three beasts had greatly increased. It was just that they didn't have many opportunities to show off, so no one knew. The current three beasts were completely different from when they first came out of the assessment competition. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Chu Yingfei looked at Bailey Hongzhuang as if she was looking at a fool. If she and the beasts were to enter the life and death arena, wouldn't it be easy for her to kill the beasts? Did Bailey Hongzhuang want to give her a chance to take revenge? Or was she really so arrogant that she thought her contracted beasts could compete with her? However, since Bailey Hongzhuang gave her this chance to take revenge, she naturally wouldn't refuse. Contracted beasts were very important to every cultivator. She believed that if she killed Bailey Hongzhuang's contracted beasts, she would definitely be depressed to the extreme. However, Bailey Hongzhuang's previous words were clearly said in front of everyone. Even if she killed the contracted beasts, Bailey Hongzhuang still had to give her the antidote. She believed that when that time came, Bailey Hongzhuang would have no choice but to suffer, right? Bailey Hongzhuang, you said it yourself. If I kill your contracted beasts, you have to keep your word. Chu Yingfei emphasized. She wouldn't give Bailey Hongzhuang the chance to regret. After seeing this scene, this person had been worried for Bailey Hongzhuang. Originally, with Bailey Hongzhuang's strength, it was definitely not difficult to kill Chu Yingfei on the life and death arena. However, they couldn't understand why Bailey Hongzhuang chose to let the three contracted beasts do it. If something went wrong, Bailey Hongzhuang would probably regret it. After all, although Bailey Hongzhuang's three contracted beasts' levels were high, they still looked very young. Their strength couldn't be compared to Chu Yingfei's. Pei Yifan walked over to Bailey Hongzhuang when he saw this. His handsome face was filled with concern. Miss Bailey, this Chu Yingfei is not weak. If you directly let your demonic beast fight her, isn't it too risky? Pei Yifan reminded. Bailey Hongzhuang's three contracted beasts were all very high-leveled. It was hard to find such characters on a normal day. Although he didn't know why Bailey Hongzhuang could contract three demonic beasts, even if she could contract other demonic beasts other than these three, it wouldn't be easy to find another demonic beast of this level in the future. Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at Pei Yifan. She knew that Pei Yifan meant well. However, she had enough confidence in the three beasts. The three beasts would also encounter a certain amount of danger in the future. Many times, battles were unavoidable. If they didn't fight because of the danger, their growth in the future would be completely limited. Thank you for your reminder. However, the three of them are determined to fight. Bailey Hongzhuang's face rippled with a faint smile. Her expression was calm and without the slightest bit of worry. Following Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Pei Yifan couldn't help but look at the three demonic beasts. That's right. We're definitely going to fight this battle. Xiao He clenched her fist and said. The battle hasn't started yet. The final result isn't clear yet. Perhaps the one who dies on the life and death arena will be Chu Yingfei. Chapter 1921. No matter when, it was always full of confidence in its own strength. Even if the opponent's cultivation was stronger than theirs, its fighting spirit would not weaken at all. After all, over the years, many cultivators who claimed to be stronger than its master had died in its master's hands. This Chu Yingfei would die in its hands. Looking at the three beasts' confident appearance, Pei Yifan's eyes couldn't help but be filled with astonishment. As a disciple of Limitless Palace, he had seen many contract beasts, but he had never seen contract beasts as domineering as the three in front of him. Obviously, under such circumstances, the three beasts would not give up on the life and death ring. Since that was the case, he didn't say anything else. He believed that since Bailey Hongzhuang and the three beasts were so confident, it meant that they had the confidence to win. No one was stupid, and Bailey Hongzhuang was even more so. As the first place of the assessment competition, if she didn't have some ability, it was impossible for her to achieve such results. He wasn't a cultivator selected from the assessment competition, but he had a certain understanding of the assessment competition. During the 2 years of the assessment competition, cultivators were in an extremely cruel environment. Schemes were calculated and dangers were everywhere. Inexperienced or simple-minded cultivators would not be able to survive in such an environment. Thinking about it, Bailey Hongzhuang was also a person with both ability and wisdom. No problem, as long as you can walk down the ring alive, I will definitely tell you. Bailey Hongzhuang gave Chu Yingfei a definite answer, but the premise was that Chu Yingfei could walk down the life and death ring alive. After seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's calm appearance, Chu Yingfei, who was originally full of confidence, couldn't help but worry. She always felt that Bailey Hongzhuang was too calm. Could it be that these three contract beasts were powerful? Chu Yingfei's gaze couldn't help but fall on the three contract beasts, but no matter how she looked at them, they didn't seem to be very powerful. However, to be on the safe side, Chu Yingfei still carefully sensed them. The final result was as she had guessed. Although these three contract beasts were a bit stronger than the other contract beasts, they still hadn't reached the green realm. They were definitely not her opponent. Chu Yingfei relaxed a bit and said, "No problem, since that's the case, let's go to the life and death ring now." Chu Yingfei quickly said, as if she was afraid that Bailey Hongzhuang would regret it. The current situation was extremely beneficial to her, but if Bailey Hongzhuang reacted and suddenly changed her mind, then she would be at a disadvantage. She had already thought that she didn't want other cultivators to know that her strength had weakened. None of the three contracted beasts had reached the green realm, so she only needed to kill them as quickly as possible. No one would notice that her cultivation had weakened. Thinking of this, Chu Yingfei couldn't help but be excited. This plan was really too good. When everyone saw Chu Yingfei's fear that Bailey Hongzhuang would regret it, they felt helpless. Only Bailey Hongzhuang would make such a decision. If it were them, they wouldn't let Chu Yingfei take advantage of them. Chapter 1922. I don't know. She seems to be quite confident. Chu Yingfei's strength is actually not weak. Once she fully unleashes her combat power, these three contracted beasts will not be able to escape the fate of death. Everyone sighed. However, these thoughts could only be discussed in private. Bailey Hongzhuang had obviously already thought of a plan. No matter how they advised her, it would be useless. Immediately after, everyone set off towards the life and death ring. Although the life and death ring existed in Limitless Palace, apart from cultivators with deep hatred, most people would not choose to go there. Therefore, when Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest arrived near the life and death ring, there was no one there. This is the life and death ring. Pei Yifan introduced to Bailey Hongzhuang. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. The life and death ring was similar to the martial arts stage. However, it was much bigger than an ordinary martial arts stage. When Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest arrived near the life and death ring, many cultivators in the surroundings were attracted by Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest. Usually, once someone appeared near the life and death ring, it would attract everyone's attention. After all, they were all cultivators from the same sect. Very few people would cause such a scene. Therefore, once someone caused a ruckus in the life and death ring, it would attract many cultivators to watch. However, when the surrounding cultivators saw that the cultivators who came were all core disciples of Limitless Palace, they were even more surprised. Oh my God, what's going on today? The ones who came are actually core disciples. The cultivators' faces were filled with disbelief. Although they were all disciples of Limitless Palace, there was a huge difference between the status of core disciples and them. Not only that, but they also cultivated in different places. Usually, they did not have many chances to see core disciples. Core disciples were like the pyramid of Limitless Palace's disciples. There were very few of them. Logically speaking, the possibility of a conflict between core disciples with few people was very small. Moreover, core disciples had a bright future ahead of them. They did not expect that there would be core disciples walking towards the life and death ring. This was really rare. This is the first time I've seen a core disciple come to the life and death ring. There's going to be a good show today. Look at that woman in a white dress. Isn't she the one who came to our sect with the young sect master of Tiangang's sect 2 days ago? That's right, it's her. At this moment, many people recognized Bailey Hongzhuang. After all, it wasn't the first time that Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen came to Limitless Palace. This was the second time. He remembered that the last time they came, they only stayed for a short while in Limitless Palace. However, this time, they never left. At first, everyone was curious about what Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen were doing here. Now that they saw Bailey Hongzhuang with the core disciples, they were even more surprised. Who is this white-clothed woman? Why would he be with the core disciples? Is she also a core disciple? Everyone was puzzled. Not just anyone could become a core disciple. One had to go through layers upon layers of selections and tests to become a core disciple of Limitless Palace. Chapter 1923. If this white-clothed woman could become a core disciple of Limitless Palace just because she had a relationship with the young sect master of Tiangang's sect, it would make them feel too unbalanced. When Chu Yingfei heard that Bailey Hongzhuang came to Limitless Palace with the young sect master of Heavenly Palace, she couldn't help but frown. Could it be? Bailey Hongzhuang knew Di Beichen. When Chu Yingfei thought of this, she felt that it was impossible. The young sect master of Tiangang's sect had a noble status. How could someone like Bailey Hongzhuang be qualified to know him? Let's begin. Let's fight on the life and death arena. Bailey Hongzhuang didn't waste time. Since she came to the life and death arena, it was to end this matter. When Chu Yingfei saw that Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't wait to start, the joy in her eyes became even stronger. She also couldn't wait to start the competition. As long as she killed these 3 contract beasts, she could recover her original strength. One had to know that she was clearly Green Realm level 5. Now that she suddenly became Green Realm level 1, this feeling was really uncomfortable. Okay, then let's end it as soon as possible. Chu Yingfei wasn't afraid at all. Since Bailey Hongzhuang was anxious to send the 3 contract beasts to their deaths, she naturally wouldn't stop her. As long as her strength recovered, she would definitely take revenge. Just as Chu Yingfei was about to step onto the arena, a figure walked to Chu Yingfei's side. Chu Yingfei, you want to enter the life and death arena? The woman's voice was filled with surprise. This person was Chu Yingfei's good friend, Jia Xueqiao. Seeing Jia Xueqiao's appearance, Chu Yingfei also had a hint of surprise on her face as she nodded her head. Yes, it's me. Who did you have a conflict with? It's so serious that you want to enter the life and death arena. Jia Xueqiao's face was filled with worry. She and Chu Yingfei came to Limitless Palace together. Chu Yingfei's results were better than hers, so she became a core disciple earlier. Now she was still working hard. She only hoped that she could become a core disciple in a few days. However, she didn't expect that Chu Yingfei would fight with someone to the point of entering the life and death arena. One had to know that once they entered the life and death arena, it was a life and death battle. Unless one person died, this competition wouldn't end. Didn't this mean that after Chu Yingfei entered the life and death arena, she would lose her life? Looking at Jia Xueqiao's worried expression, Chu Yingfei patted her shoulder calmly, her face filled with a relaxed smile. Don't worry, I won't be in danger. There won't be any danger at all. Chu Yingfei was confident and certain. If she couldn't even defeat 3 contracted beasts that hadn't reached the Green Realm, then her title as a core disciple wouldn't be worthy of her name. Looking at Chu Yingfei's confident appearance, Jia Xueqiao's eyes couldn't help but reveal a hint of doubt. She choose with Chu's palace's heart sect as if she's weeks. However, Chu Yingfei was so confident right now. This was a bit too strange. Choose with her asks. Chu Yingfei smiled and waved her hand, saying, not human. Chapter 1924. Looking at Chu Yingfei's smug look, Bailey Hongzhuang said indifferently, you can be proud of yourself now. Be careful that you become a dead person later. Following Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Chu Yingfei's expression became slightly gloomy, you just wait to collect the corpse of your contract beast. Seeing that Chu Yingfei's opponent was actually Bailey Hongzhuang's contract beast, the surprise in Jia Xueqiao's eyes became more and more intense. Chu Yingfei, who is this girl? How did you offend her? Bailey Hongzhuang, the new core disciple. Chu Yingfei said indifferently, she's not a big deal. If I offend her, then so be it. As a cultivator, the number of people she offended on a daily basis was countless. If she offended someone, then she offended someone. There was nothing to care about. As long as the other party couldn't do anything to her, then there was no need to worry. Bailey Hongzhuang. Jia Xueqiao frowned, why is this name so familiar? I seem to have heard it somewhere before. At this moment, a surprised voice sounded from the crowd. Isn't this our assessment's first place, Bailey Hongzhuang? I remember that she entered Tiangang sect. How did she appear in Limitless Palace? Chapter 1925. After discovering this point, Chu Yingfei's face instantly turned ugly. If Bailey Hongzhuang was just an ordinary disciple, it wouldn't matter if she offended her. But if Bailey Hongzhuang was the future young sect master's wife, then she had offended a huge opponent. She couldn't stay in Limitless Palace forever, but once she left Limitless Palace, as long as Bailey Hongzhuang gave the word, she would have no place to go. It would be a simple matter to take her life. Chu Yingfei only felt her scalp go numb. She never thought that there would be such a result. She couldn't understand. If Bailey Hongzhuang really had such an extraordinary identity, why did Bailey Hongzhuang just silently accept it when she insulted her? If it was an ordinary person, their attitude would have been arrogant and insufferably arrogant when faced with this situation. Bailey Hongzhuang was too strange. Chu Yingfei was depressed to the extreme. Which of the extraordinary cultivators she met on a daily basis didn't have their noses in the air? Why was Bailey Hongzhuang different from the others? If Bailey Hongzhuang knew what Chu Yingfei was thinking at this moment, she would be speechless. She never looked at others with her head held high. She was too lazy to pay attention to some meaningless quarrels. Generally speaking, cultivators with a real background wouldn't look down on others. Obviously, the people Chu Yingfei met before weren't really extraordinary people. What should I do now? Chu Yingfei's shoulders kept thinking, but now, she was riding a tiger and couldn't get off. If she admitted her mistake to Bailey Hongzhuang now, she was afraid that Bailey Hongzhuang might not forgive her. Moreover, if she did this, she would really become a laughing stock. But if she didn't admit her mistake, then her future would be bleak. Chu Yingfei had never regretted it so much. Although she was arrogant and liked to ridicule some cultivators, she only ridiculed cultivators who didn't pose any threat to her. After all, there were some people in this world that she could not afford to offend. Therefore, she would not choose to offend them. However, he didn't expect such an accident to happen this time. Jia Xueqiao swallowed a mouthful of saliva. She couldn't help but look at Bailey Hongzhuang with fear and worry. In the next moment, Jia Xueqiao took a few steps back. He quietly walked away from Chu Yingfei's side, looking like he wanted to distance himself from Chu Yingfei. She regretted standing next to Chu Yingfei, but she believed that Bailey Hongzhuang wouldn't notice her too much. As long as she left now, she would not have anything to do with Chu Yingfei. Even though her relationship with Chu Yingfei was extremely good, she had no choice but to leave at a time like this. After all, his future was the most important. This was the consequence of Chu Yingfei offending someone. There was no need for her to bear the consequences with Chu Yingfei. Chu Yingfei also noticed Jia Xueqiao's actions. Her originally gloomy face was now dyed with a hint of paleness. It was extremely unsightly. However, at a time like this, she couldn't say that Jia Xueqiao's actions were wrong. Every man for himself, and the devil takes the hindmost. Everyone would think for themselves. Let's begin now. Bailey Hongzhuang said slowly. Chapter 1926. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Chu Yingfei hesitated for a while, but at this time, the arrow was already knocked on the bow. She had no way out, so she could only continue like this. Thinking of this, Chu Yingfei immediately walked onto the life and death ring. At least, she couldn't lose face in front of others now. After Chu Yingfei walked onto the stage, Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze couldn't help but fall on the three beasties. Are you guys confident? Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curved into a faint smile. Although it was a questioning tone, her tone already revealed confidence. Naturally, no problem. The three beasties said in unison. See if I don't beat her to a pulp. Xiao He clenched her fists, her eyes filled with anger. Chu Yingfei actually dared to provoke them in public. They must let Chu Yingfei know how powerful they were. Seeing the three beasties full of fighting spirit, Bailey Hongzhuang's smile widened. Thinking back, whether it was her or the three beasties, their strength was very weak. However, they were now able to stand on their own. In the next moment, the three beasties also jumped onto the stage. When the surrounding cultivators saw that Chu Yingfei's opponent wasn't Bailey Hongzhuang, but the three contract beasties, their eyes were filled with surprise. What's going on? Is Chu Yingfei going to fight the three contract beasties? From the looks of it, that should be the case. But how bored is this Chewing Fei? She actually chose to fight the contract beasties and even went on to the life and death ring? I don't understand. I remember that this Chewing Fei was originally the weakest among the core disciples. I just didn't expect her to fall to the point of fighting with contract beasties. It really makes people speechless. Everyone sighed. Although battles on the life and death ring rarely happened, they had seen it before. However, they had never seen a situation where cultivators and contract beasties fought before. This was really a new thing. Chewing Fei naturally heard the discussions of the other cultivators and her expression was awkward. As early as when she agreed to fight with the 3 contract beasties, she already knew that she would be ridiculed like this. However, she had to recover her strength, so she could only choose to agree to Bailey Hongzhuang. Now, the more she thought about it, the more she felt that it wasn't worth it. It was a pity that she had already reached this step. It was inevitable that she would become a laughingstock. The 3 beasties stood opposite Chewing Fei and looked at each other. I'll go first, I've been annoyed by her for a long time. Blackie rubbed his palms together as his eyes locked onto Chewing Fei. Although its cultivation, its strength, Chu's strength wasn't something that Chewing Fei couldn't compare. Through this period of cultivation in the desert world, not only had its strength increased, but its speed had also far exceeded that of ordinary people. As He Hongzhuang Huang, He, Xiao He, Xiao, Xiao, He, Yi, He. However, when Little Black said this, Little White frowned and said, "No, I don't like her even more. I must teach her a lesson first." It had been holding back its anger before. Now that it finally had the chance to fight with Chewing Fei, it couldn't hold back. "Don't worry, leave this kind of thing to me. I'll bite off her neck," Baisher said. Its blood was already boiling. Chapter 1927. Hearing White Lion's words, Xiao He and Xiao Bai were speechless. "White Lion, if you attack directly, then what are Xiao Bai and I going to do? Wouldn't that be like heroes being useless?" The 3 beasties had been fighting together for a long time. Xiao He and Xiao Bai were very familiar with White Lion's fighting style. For White Lion, the simplest and most violent way was to charge forward and bite off the opponent's neck. One had to know that in this desert world, White Lion had ended many battles this way. However, Chewing Fei had offended them so much. If White Lion settled her so easily, how could they vent their anger? "I'll go first," then Xiao He, Xiao Bai said slowly. "White Lion, you go last. You'll end it." White Lion was stunned for a moment after hearing Xiao He and Xiao Bai's words. However, after thinking about it carefully, it was indeed so. "Okay, then you guys go first." "I'll end it," White Lion said. Xiao Bai nodded in satisfaction. Now, it had the chance to attack first. However, Xiao He quickly said, "No, I should go first, then Xiao Bai. Didn't we already agree on this? Why did you change your mind?" Xiao Bai was dissatisfied. It was not easy to come to an agreement, but Xiao He still disagreed. "That's what you and White Lion agreed on." "I didn't agree on this with you," Xiao He said. Chewing Fei was standing on the other side, preparing to fight the 3 beasties. Her emotions were also very complicated. Now that she knew Bailey Hongzhuang's true identity, she did not dare to be as casual as before. If she was prepared to take the lives of the 3 beasties before, she did not dare to do so now. How important were contract beasts to cultivators? If she killed Bailey Hongzhuang's contract beast, then the enmity between her and Bailey Hongzhuang would be irreconcilable. However, just as Chewing Fei was thinking about this, she heard the 3 beasts fighting to be the first to attack her. Especially from their conversation, it was as if they did not put her in their eyes at all. From the arrogant attitude of the three beasts, it was as if they could easily kill her. Chu Yingfei was in a very bad mood after being looked down upon by three contract beasts that were weaker than her. When the three beasts were talking, they didn't hold back at all. In any case, between them and Chu Yingfei, only one of them could walk off the stage alive. They were determined to take Chu Yingfei's life today. Bailey Hongzhuang felt very helpless when she saw the three beasts in such a state. This was like an unequal division of the spoils. She was really worried that before Chu Yingfei could be dealt with, the three of them would start fighting amongst themselves. Although she said that, the smile in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes gradually deepened. The three beasts had always liked to fight. They would fight for this kind of opportunity with all their might, so it was very normal. When Bailey Hongzhuang felt that it was very normal, the surrounding cultivators were not calm. Damn, am I seeing things? These three contract beasts are fighting to kill Chu Yingfei. Since when did core disciples become so easy to deal with? Could it be that these three contract beasts are too arrogant? Look, Chu Yingfei's face is red. Chapter 1928. Let the competition begin. Pei Yifan's voice quickly sounded. At this time, he needed to temporarily act as the referee. As Pei Yifan's voice fell, the three beasts also stopped bickering and their faces quickly filled with a touch of seriousness. Although they usually had a cheerful appearance, when faced with serious matters, they were very serious. After this discussion, they also came to a conclusion. Xiao He and Xiao Bai would start together, and Baisher would go last. Chu Yingfei looked at the three contract beasts in front of her and also made a decision in her heart. These three contract beasts looked down on her so much, she must definitely teach them a lesson. Only in this way could she regain her face. However, in the end, she would leave the three contract beasts alive. Thinking about it, Bailey Hongzhuang would also change her opinion of her after seeing this scene. Perhaps, there was still room for negotiation. Thinking of this, Chu Yingfei's heart was filled with excitement. Originally, this was already a dead end, but she didn't expect that after careful consideration, there was still some possibility. She was really too smart. In the next moment, a surge of elemental energy surged out from Chu Yingfei's body. Now, she could only display the strength of a Green Realm Level 1, but in this situation, it shouldn't arouse the suspicion of other cultivators. When everyone saw that Chu Yingfei only displayed the strength of a Green Realm Level 1, they couldn't help but have a touch of surprise in their eyes. I remember that Chu Yingfei's strength had already broken through to Green Realm Level 5, why is she only Green Realm Level 1 now? Thinking about it, she wants to be merciful. After all, if she still has to use all her strength to fight with three contract beasts, it would be a bit embarrassing. That's right, these three contract beasts look very young, their strength definitely won't be too strong. Why use a sledgehammer to kill a chicken? After seeing the changes in the seal, the core disciples also had some guesses in their hearts. Presumably, Chu Yingfei didn't dare to be enemies with Bailey Hongzhuang after knowing her true identity, so she did this. I knew that if Chu Yingfei knew Bailey Hongzhuang's identity and still clamored with Bailey Hongzhuang, then there's really something wrong with her brain. Unfortunately, Chu Yingfei found out too late. Even if she realizes it now, I'm afraid Bailey Hongzhuang won't care about her. Everyone sighed faintly. In fact, they also felt that Chu Yingfei was really unlucky this time. After hearing everyone's discussion, the three beasts' faces didn't look good. Only they knew that Chu's current strength was only Green Realm Level 1, how was she purposely letting them? Yet, in the eyes of others now, they took advantage of Chu Yingfei, it was really depressing. At this moment, Chu Yingfei was in a very good mood. She didn't expect that she would benefit from this disaster and gain a good reputation. After seeing Chu Yingfei's face, Chu's uses eyes. Yingfei's let's teach her a good lesson, let's see if she can still be so proud later. After saying that, Xiao He and Xiao Bai looked at each other and immediately rushed towards Chu Yingfei. In the process of rushing, Xiao He and Xiao Bai's strength also appeared in front of everyone's eyes. Yellow Realm Level 8. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.